Hello, and welcome to Channel Zero TV with John and John. I'm John,
And I'm John.
and today we're going to share with you one of our favorites, Doc Savage, the Man of Bronze, a 1975 picture starring Ron Ely. John, want to give people a little bit of an idea of what they're about to watch?
Well, this is, of course, the pulp adventure character, Doc Savage, the Man of Bronze, wealthy, superhumanly strong, the mind of several geniuses. This was produced by George Pal, directed by Michael Anderson, who also directed Around the World in 80 Days. And, of course, it's based on the pulp adventure character from the 1930s.
Okay, we'll be watching just the opening credits for the picture, and then we'll be back afterwards to tell you a little bit about the movie.
This is Doc Savage, the Man of Bronze.
Have no fear, the Man of Bronze is here. Peace will come to all who find Doc Savage, Doc Savage. He's a friend to all mankind, pure of heart and mind. Who will make crime disappear? Doc Savage, Doc Savage. Conqueror and pioneer, thank the Lord he's here. The Doc made a vow that helps us all, so let's recall it now. The oath that he swore said life would be so sweet and free once more. Our hero has come. Let's all join in as we begin the big parade. Go bang on your drum and raise your flag, 'cause history is being made.
This is Doc's Fortress of Solitude.
Okay, so for those of you unfamiliar with that movie, but who may be familiar with the 1966 Batman series, this film has a touch, or more than a touch, of the sort of tongue-in-cheek humor attached to a real action story. John, you and I have seen this film a number of times, but I guess it didn't do terribly well when it opened, and I guess it's still kind of out there, just shy of a cult classic. You want to talk a little bit about its production?
Yeah, this was produced, as I said, by George Pal, directed by Michael Anderson. Pal optioned the character from Lester Dent, Lester Dent's widow. Lester Dent was the man who wrote, I think, almost all the 181 Doc Savage novellas. Now, at the time, we're talking the early 1970s, those were being reprinted by Bantam, and they were flying off the racks. They were an extremely popular series of books. So, Pal thought, okay, I'm going to option Doc Savage, the Man of Bronze, because there's a built-in audience. And that was a pretty smart call on his part. The subsequent script that he wrote with Joe Morhaime ended up coming down kind of hard on the campy side. And the production was originally budgeted for about $1.8 million, but Warner Brothers underwent a change in leadership while they were shooting. So a certain amount of money just simply wasn't rendered up to the production. So it ended up having, a lot of budgetary and editing problems as a consequence. And it was dumped out in the beginning of 1975. It ran, I think, in about 10 cities. Up here in Boston, it was in Cambridge and Fresh Pond for all of a week. And then it vanished and was sold to television. So, Warner Brothers was just not very high on the property as it turned out.
Yeah, and it certainly has a very kind of low rent effects, but I would say part of its charm is that it kind of made up for that with terrific cast, a lot of character actors who were really having a whole bunch of fun with the role. And they took advantage, I think, with some of their shortcomings. Like I believe you told me the reason the soundtrack has this John Philip Sousa music in it is that it was in the public domain. But as you saw from that opening credits, they kind of had fun adding lyrics to it, which I thought added to the charm.
Yeah, I mean, the key deliverable here is like Ron Ely is Doc Savage. I mean, that is brilliant, brilliant casting. He had been Tarzan on TV for 2 years. So, he had the physique, he had the stage fighting skills. he had an idea in his head of how to play this very sort of stoical, heroic character. To me, the campiness can get a little heavy-handed, and I kind of blame that a little bit on the script writing. Some of that came from George Pal. I think the director, who was English, Michael Anderson, might have had trouble sort of, finding the line between laughing with the project and laughing at the project. And I've always maintained that this film might have been a success if, say, George Pal had been able to outreach to somebody like Roger Corman, who would have known how to like put every last dollar or what money they had up on that screen.
One person who took this seriously and still kind of anchors the film is Ron Ely. As you said, he was our generation's TV Tarzan. I remember him vividly as a very articulate Tarzan at the time. This is the other role I remember him on. He's kind of been around. I guess he did his own stunts. I know he had a terrible tragedy recently. I think his second wife was murdered by his son, or their adopted son, who later got killed by the police. So he has been in the news recently.
That's just a very, very, very sad, tragic story. Bad things happen to all of us.
Getting back to the character, you mentioned that Doc was the hero of over 180 novels. Do you want to talk a little bit about that era of pulps that he came out of, and sort of what other probably more famous heroes of the day have beholden to him?
Yeah, Doc was interesting because unlike the Shadow or the Spider or some of these other like Pulp Fiction crime fighters, he had no secret identity. He was raised from infancy by a panel of scientists who, quote, turned him into a physical and mental marvel. And, clearly they succeeded. So, he's a scientist, an engineer. He's also a medical doctor. He's an inventor. He wears a vest, containing all these sort of like cool gadgets that he uses to overcome his opponents. So, I mean, he's literally the spiritual father of like Superman. Siegel and Schuster were clearly drawing on Doc Savage, the Man of Bronze, when they created Superman, the Man of Steel. He's also very clearly the spiritual father to Batman, the fact that, he has a gadget for every occasion, the fact that he swings around on a grappling hook, the fact that he's, immensely wealthy and, has his own sort of supporting cast of characters. I mean, the funny thing about Doc Savage is, other than, the core fans of the novels and this movie and then, a very short-lived radio show, he's just hugely consequent all the same. I mean, he's an inspiration for dozens and dozens of characters.
And he did have a comic once, didn't he? Or haven't there been a couple comics dedicated to him?
Yeah, he's been at every comic book company. He was at Gold Key for a little while. He had a comic book back in the 1940s. Marvel had him back in the 1970s. DC got the option in the 1980s. I think there is a Doc Savage comic being published now, but I don't know the company that is doing it. More power to them, because currently that's literally his only other multimedia outlet. Sadly, there's been all sorts of rumors in Hollywood for decades. Schwarzenegger wants to do it. This one wants to do it. Some director wants to do it. The option has been with 3 different movie studios, I think, in the last 20 years.
And for now, for better or for worse, and I think for better, if you want to see Doc on the screen, your one choice is going to be this 1975 classic, which might be hard to track down, but is definitely worth your time. So hope this inspired you to enjoy it as we have. Till next time, hope you join us again on Channel Zero TV. I'm John.
And I'm John.
And we'll talk to you soon.